Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our program. This is the live version of Isshinryu MATS. We'll be doing some review of our paperwork as well as playing a little bit of music. So let's see what we got here. We'll check the audio, see if the audio comes up a little better as I come closer to the microphone. So let's try this and see if this will work. I don't know if it'll come through. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. Um, but let's see if it actually does play. All right. Now we'll see. We have we can also okay. So back to the chat and then subject matter. Going to be rank requirements, and then we'll go over let's see if we can get I don't know if that volume's coming through, guys. I'll have to replay the show, but I just want to make sure that the volume is up. And my trucks here. I don't know if you can show, but this is playing for change when the levy breaks. A cover song that Led Zeppelin made popular. You know? So, so rank requirements go. Uh, this, what are you doing, buddy? Say it again. This is a live broadcast. Well, yeah, it corresponds with the radio program. So let's just see what we can do here. We have. Let's go back to the topic, which is Sun Q, third grade brown belt in our dojo. And when we get to this point, it's funny because when you get to this point, you have to get, um, from your sign-in sheet, basically who comes to the event, or your mates, people that are in the dojo, or the senseis. Pretty much everyone who participated that day. And then you go over basically the whole class. You have to be able to do everything up to your Sun Q level. So you would bow the class in and run the class all the way up to the point of your kata progress and kapano progress. Empty hand kata and, I should say the kapano progress. So what happens is, let's just pause this a second. So what happens is, on test day, it's basically a review of everything that you've learned from white belt to green belt, and now you're testing for brown belt. And in the brown belt category of Sankyu in our dojo, the you have to be able to I use the word recite all of the charts, chart one, chart two, do all of the basic exercises, upper body, lower body, kick punch combinations, which we call Ippon Kumite, and then be able to organize a Jukumite session, have that session, and then go into kata, um, empty hand kata. After the empty hand kata is after that um, presentation of your um, all the katas up to that point that you have to know, and brown belt is Shinto. When you get the Sankyu, Shinto is your kata that you need. Um, so it's you'll take the class through Seisan, Seiyuchin, Nahanchi, Wansu, and then Shinto, and then of course the instructor will uh, have you then get the class ready to do the weapons katas. You'll go through that, and then it's upon that time that you do what's called a question and answer session, and that's all listed here in our manual. So the requirements of what you need to know is all here um, on pages 41 and 42 of the student manual. So let's take a look at some of these. Uh, the Isshinryu upper body exercises 1 through 16, whereas, let me explain the 16. There's 15 on the chart of the Isshinryu upper body basics, all right? We added one for Sensei Nagel, so we practiced 16 here at this dojo. So once you go through your calisthenics and you get the class warmed up as a, right now you're still a green belt, but you're testing for brown. So if you do everything you're supposed to do during this period of time, you'll be able to hopefully get a positive response from the senseis, and you'll get elevated to Sankyu. So, uh, starting with the 16 upper body basics, and then the kicks. There are 10 kicks that we practice, and that combines upper body and lower body exercises, and then you combine them. You use chart one and chart two, and you pick um, what we call what you would do in competition, basically. You know what I mean? You get to utilize and pick from chart one and chart two and put them together in kick punch combinations and do Ippon Kumite routines and exercises with them. Then, of course, you put on your gear, you fight, you do a couple of round robins, maybe 2-3 minute rounds, go around once or twice. Um, and then you go into the empty hand katas. Now, again, since you'll be testing for brown belt, you will have learned Seisan, Seiyuchi, Nahanchi, and Wansu up to this point, and you're going to display now what you've learned for Shinto. Now, of course, once you become a Sankyu, you practice Shinto diligently until you are comfortable. Again, then the sensei will have everybody get their sparring gear off and put on the black gis now to do the weapons. And you'll start with the bow. And then for Sankyu here, let's go to the weapons. will say that um, some senseis don't teach their students weapons until black belts. However, I'm of the mind that the longer um, the longer that you work with something and the more experience you have with it, the better you get at it. So we have routines for instance, our children's class with basically what's equivalent to, I guess, an eskrima stick. So starting them early when it comes to weapons, I don't know. There's schools of thought there that some senseis wouldn't allow it, and some senseis will. So I'm of one of the ones that does allow doing, I guess the weapons katas um, early on. So now let's call them out. All right. So as for your bow kata, Tokamini is a kata that you just, how do I say this? It's a standard, man. You just have to know it. All right. It exists in a lot of different disciplines. So um, Tokamini is a beautiful kata, and it's the first one that you'll start to practice with, you know, early on in your study, learning how to handle this thing. You know what I mean? Um, Obviously, for brown belt, now testing for brown belt, knowing and um, starting to understand Bokata, to me, that's enough. Once you're a brown belt now, we can move on to some of the other weapons katas. But Tokamini is going to last you a lifetime because you're going to practice it for the rest of your life. But if you choose to, um, however, it's a kata that's recognizable not only to Isshinryu practitioners and instructors, but also to other disciplines because it has a lot of inherent um, structure in it. You know what I mean? So you will have to take the class through Tokamini for your test for Sankyu. Obviously, Kusan Kusai is another weapons kata that you'll be introduced to. You'll be studying about how to, you know, again, from the time you're a white belt all the way up until this point, which is Yankyu, you are uh, you've been familiar with the the structure of how to handle each one of these weapons. Same thing with Hamahiga, where with the Tampa, we do drills with the Tampa. Take a movement out of the kata and drill it back and forth so that you learn how to use the weapon and not have it come out of your hand. After that, the question and answer session goes like this: what have you learned about our founder? Number one, is uh, uh, the date that he was born. Do you know where he was born? Do you know anything about him? Do you know his wife's name, his children's name? Um, when he formally named Isshinryu? Um, all of these questions come out, and then questions about the kata and the origins of the kata and where they come from and how we got them at Isshinryu. And, you know, as you go through your brown belt ranks, you're going to learn Sun Tzu. And that kata belongs to Isshinryu. So, um, terminology is another thing. Um, we owe a great deal of thanks to the senseis who have spent time teaching us one how to spell everything in both languages, English as well as Okinawan, which they say is Japanese, but that's not true because I believe the Okinawans speak their own dialect and they have their own language. I like to think of them, um, I guess, as their own entity, but I don't know if Japan would agree with that. But terminology and how it's said and how it's spelled. Um, as a white belt, we introduce these terms to you. So no matter what age you are, whether you're 7 years old or 70 years old, you get introduced to these terms and how they're spelled. And then we got a gift from Sensei Sloan, and um, he allowed us to put this in our manual, and he goes through how they write it in their language. Not only does he give you the spelling, the pronunciation, and then the English, what it means in English, but um, he actually writes it out in their language. I don't know if you can get any more diligent than that for all of us to share. So then you have this that you have to do, and it's the words that you have to live by, basically. Um, the Kempo Gokui is something that when you come into the dojo, you see it. It's right in front of you. All of the English words are there for the Kempo Gokui. And, you know, from 1 through 8, there are 8 precepts, if you will. You read these words, and I guess when you're young, you may not understand them, but if you stay with it and you practice diligently for a lifetime, and you say these words every time you bow in and bow out, and read them in your student manual, you start to learn the real meaning of the words because you live it. You know, the student creed, the karate creed, and the karate code, which we call the Kempo Gokui. Um, Again, now you're testing for brown belt, so it's something that you've been saying um, over and over and over again throughout the time that you come to class, and all depending on how you work out at home. But we got a page called Dojo Etiquette from Sensei Sloan, and he allowed us to put it in our student manual with his name on it because it's his dojo etiquette that when he tests the students, these are the words that they have to memorize and be able to explain what dojo etiquette means. So we put it in our student manual with his name on it because we want our students to know that we're not just the only ones. We have a page for dojo etiquette, but we're not just the only ones. That there are other dojos out there that practice dojo etiquette. What a thing to teach a youngster. When you come on the deck, you bow. Make sure your uniform is clean, pressed. Your OB is tied properly. Your pads are clean. Your mouthpiece, any kind of protective gear that you wear. Yes. Being prepared. One of the rules, which I love, that when Sensei calls, attention, and everybody runs to their spot and stands at attention now, because they're going to bow in. The student that walks to their spot, um, he almost calls it like a sign of disrespect, because when the sensei calls everybody to their, line up, you want to run to that spot and be enthusiastic about taking your spot, because sensei's on deck now and he's asked you to line up. So dojo etiquette is something that really is a big part of the workout, because when you're studying to be a white belt, or to qualify to be a white belt, and you're stretching and you're learning all these new things, concepts and principles, the main thing that we want you to learn is, I know you have to focus on the waza because that's what they give you to do. But while you're focusing on the waza, if you can also incorporate some of these other tools that they give you, such as the dojo etiquette, the Kempo Gokui, the Karate Creed, student creed, all this stuff, it starts to shape your practice in a discipline. You have a discipline because this is what you do when you bow into this activity that you're going to do. You're focused on this material that this, like the spec book. This is like the spec book. It has the terminology. It has everything. Everything we're going to ask you is in this book, because it is for Sankyo. This is a student manual prepared and given to you to study, and you bring it with you on test day, and you give it to the senseis, because there's things in here that are assignments for you that you have to complete. And then this stays with you for the rest of your life, because this was how you were tested for Sankyo. As all the senseis that participated, everybody who was on deck signed in, the time, how long it lasted, all that stuff is in this book. It's like a way for you to look back and maybe even show your children and grandchildren. Look, when I was young, this is what I did to make brown belt. This is what I did to make shodan. This is what I did to make, instructor, whatever. Documentation, the way the senseis have behaved since I started, they've all come together and streamlined the curriculum, the entire syllabus, and what the requirements are for each rank testing. Going to tournaments, again, Sensei McGrath was not big on going to tournaments, but going and judging and being a part of the tournament he loved. But as for his students, especially the Q ranks, tournaments could build bad habits, because of the rules of what you're allowed to hit and what you're not allowed to hit. So you have to be very careful about that, because you can't have any false sense of security for the street. If you're going to use your martial training for the street, what's your level of violence now? What are you willing to do to evade and protect and eliminate the threat? So, what's your level of violence? which again is one of the assignments in the Sun Q and Yan Q test, as well as the Go Q test. What with these kata processes that we've given you now, and you have these um, little gems that belong to the katas. What are you willing to take out of the katas and use? What do you trust? What do you practice? What do you drill? And that all comes out on test day, because on test day you're asked to present that. You know what I mean? Let's see if this comes through. I don't know. I'll have to check it once I get um, once I finish the broadcast. I'll play it back and see if this comes through. I don't know, because I have no way of hearing it. You know what I mean? This is an interview with Marilyn Fierro and McGrath. So again, I don't know if that's coming through the on the playback, but let's see if I can get this one in here. This was uh, I found this through a show that I watch, American Idol, and this kid, he's just amazing. Hello, he says. Hello. Let's see though. I'll be able to read the chat. We'll let it play, and then we'll play it back and see. Boom. Ian Dong. I just wanted to see um, if it came through. I didn't. I wasn't sure. All right, let's try this. Let's sign off. Let's end it.